The rain hammered against the glass doors of Meridian Industries as Sophia Bennett stood in the lobby, watching the storm intensify with each passing minute. Her shoulders ached from hunching over spreadsheets all day, and her mind was exhausted from analyzing consumer behavior patterns for the upcoming product launch. This was only her third week at the company, and already she felt the weight of proving herself worthy of this opportunity. Sophia pulled out her phone and checked her bank balance, a habit she had developed over the past 2 years since her father's heart condition had forced him into early retirement. The numbers stared back at her with brutal honesty. Taking a taxi would mean skipping lunch for the next 3 days. The bus would require 2 transfers in this weather, but it was the only reasonable option. She was about to step into the rain when a sleek silver car pulled up directly in front of the entrance. The vehicle was stunning, clearly expensive, with elegant lines and windows tinted just dark enough to suggest privacy without appearing secretive. Sophia moved aside, assuming some executive was being picked up by their personal driver. The window rolled down smoothly, and Sophia found herself looking at a man who seemed to belong in a magazine rather than behind a steering wheel. He had warm brown eyes that crinkled slightly at the corners, dark hair that looked professionally styled yet somehow casual, and a strong jawline that gave him an air of quiet confidence. He wore a simple gray sweater that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "You look like you could use a ride," he said, his voice carrying a gentle authority that made her pause. Sophia hesitated, her instincts warring between caution and practicality. "I appreciate the offer, but I can manage." "The storm is getting worse," he observed, glancing at the darkening sky. "Where are you headed?" "Riverside District," she answered carefully, still trying to figure out if this was some new employee benefit she had missed during orientation. The man studied her for a moment, then reached across and unlocked the passenger door. "I know the area well. Come on, you will catch a cold standing out here." Something about his manner put her at ease. The car clearly belonged to the company, and he seemed professional despite the informal conversation. Sophia made a quick decision and slid into the passenger seat, immediately surrounded by the scent of leather and something woodsy that she could not quite identify. "Thank you so much," she said, buckling her seatbelt. "Is this part of the employee transport program?" A slight smile played at his lips as he pulled away from the curb. "Something like that." "You are new here?" "Started 3 weeks ago," Sophia confirmed, relaxing into the comfortable seat. "Still learning the ropes, but I am grateful for the chance. Meridian Industries has an excellent reputation." "Does it?" he asked, genuine curiosity in his tone. "What have you heard?" Sophia found herself opening up more than she usually would with a stranger. Perhaps it was the intimacy of the car, or the rhythmic sound of rain creating a cocoon around them, or simply the exhaustion of carrying her burdens alone for so long. "People say the leadership actually cares about employees, that promotions are based on merit rather than politics," she explained. "I need that to be true. I do not have connections or family money to fall back on. Just my work ethic and hopefully some talent." "Tell me more about that," he encouraged, navigating through traffic with practiced ease. Sophia surprised herself by sharing details she usually kept private. She told him about her father's illness, the medical bills that never seemed to stop coming, her mother's exhaustion from working double shifts at the hospital, and her younger sister who deserved a chance at college. She explained how every promotion, every raise, every opportunity mattered because it was not just about her anymore. "That is a heavy burden for someone your age," he said quietly, and she heard genuine respect in his voice rather than pity. "I do not see it as a burden," Sophia replied honestly. "They are my family. They sacrificed everything to give me opportunities. This is just my turn to give back." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, and Sophia found herself stealing glances at him when she thought he was not looking. There was something refined about him that did not quite match her image of a company driver. The way he carried himself, the quality of his clothes, even his vocabulary suggested education and sophistication. "How long have you been with Meridian?" she asked, curious despite herself. A while now, he answered vaguely. Long enough to know the city in all its moods. Do you enjoy it? Driving, I mean? He seemed to consider the question carefully. I enjoy the conversations. You would be surprised what people share when they think you are just the person behind the wheel. Their guard comes down, and you get to see who they really are. Sophia felt herself blushing, realizing she had done exactly that. I suppose I just proved your point. I am glad you did, he said, his voice warm. Your honesty is refreshing. Most people spend so much energy maintaining appearances that they forget how to be real. That sounds lonely, Sophia observed softly. He glanced at her with surprise, as if no one had ever made that particular connection before. It can be. But moments like this remind me that genuine connection is still possible. The car slowed as they approached her neighborhood, and Sophia felt an unexpected reluctance to see the ride end. There was something about this stranger that made her feel understood in a way she had not experienced in years. The building with the red awning, she directed. Third floor. He pulled up smoothly and put the car in park, but did not turn off the engine. Sophia gathered her bag, then found herself making an impulsive decision. Would you like to come up for coffee? She asked, her heart racing at her own boldness. As a thank you. I make a mean cup, family recipe. The man looked genuinely surprised, his eyebrows rising slightly. For a long moment, he simply studied her, and Sophia felt her cheeks growing warm. She was about to withdraw the offer when he smiled and turned off the engine. Coffee sounds perfect, he said simply, and Sophia felt her heart skip in a way that had nothing to do with nervousness and everything to do with possibility. They hurried through the rain to the building entrance, Sophia fumbling with her keys while trying to shield herself from the downpour. Once inside, they climbed 3 flights of stairs, their footsteps echoing in the narrow stairwell. Sophia's heart raced, though whether from the climb or from the awareness of this intriguing stranger following her, she could not say. It is not much, she warned as she unlocked her door, suddenly self-conscious about her modest living space. But it is home. The apartment was small but meticulously maintained. A combined living area and kitchen with pale yellow walls that Sophia had painted herself to bring warmth to the space. Mismatched furniture that she had collected from thrift stores and sidewalk finds, each piece cleaned and restored with care. A small bookshelf overflowed with novels and poetry collections, and plants lined the windowsill, their green leaves pressing against the rain-streaked glass. Please, sit down, she offered, gesturing toward the worn sofa that she had covered with a colorful throw blanket. The coffee will just take a moment. Nathan settled onto the couch, and Sophia was acutely aware of how he seemed to fill the small space with his presence. She moved to the kitchen area, grateful for something to do with her hands as she prepared the coffee maker. She could feel his eyes following her movements, a awareness that made her skin tingle. You have created something special here, he said, his voice thoughtful. It feels like a home, not just a place to sleep. Sophia smiled, measuring coffee grounds with practiced precision. When you do not have much, you learn to make what you have matter. My mother always said that a home reflects the heart of the person who lives there. I want mine to show that I care, even if I cannot afford expensive things. Your mother sounds wise, he replied. Does she live nearby? No, she is back in my hometown, about 3 hours away, Sophia explained as the coffee began to brew, filling the apartment with its rich aroma. I visit once a month when I can afford the bus ticket. My sister is still in high school, and my father needs regular medical care. They need me to succeed here so I can help them. The coffee finished brewing, and Sophia poured 2 cups, adding a splash of cream to hers. She brought them to the living area and settled into the armchair across from the couch, tucking her legs beneath her. The rain continued its steady percussion against the windows, creating an intimate cocoon around them. Nathan took a sip of his coffee and closed his eyes briefly, a look of genuine appreciation crossing his face. This is exceptional. You were not exaggerating about the family recipe. My grandmother was very particular about her coffee, Sophia said with a fond smile. She said that if you are going to do something, even something as simple as making coffee, you should do it with intention and care. I think about her every time I make a cup. They talked easily as the evening deepened around them, the conversation flowing from topic to topic with surprising naturalness. Sophia learned that he appreciated classical music, particularly piano compositions that he said reminded him of rain. He told her about traveling through Europe during his college years, visiting small cafes and meeting people whose stories changed his perspective on life. He spoke about the importance of finding meaning beyond material success, about the danger of losing yourself in the pursuit of achievement. What Sophia did not learn was much about his personal life. Whenever she asked direct questions about his background, his family, or his current circumstances, he deflected with practiced skill, turning the conversation back to her with such smooth transitions that she almost did not notice. "You are very good at that," Sophia finally observed, setting down her coffee cup. "Good at what?" he asked, though his slight smile suggested he knew exactly what she meant. "Avoiding personal questions. I have told you about my entire life story, and I still do not know much about you beyond your taste in music and coffee." His expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering across his features before he regained his composure. "Old habit. In my position, I have learned that it is safer to listen than to share." "That seems like a lonely way to live," Sophia said gently, echoing her earlier observation in the car. Nathan set down his cup and leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his gaze intense. "It is. More than you know. But when you have been disappointed by people who wanted something from you rather than knowing you, you learn to be cautious." "I understand that," Sophia said softly. "I had a relationship that ended badly 2 years ago. He said he loved me, but what he really loved was the idea of having someone take care of him. When my father got sick and I could no longer put his needs first, he left. Said I had changed, that I was not fun anymore." "He was a fool," Nathan said with such conviction that Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. "Maybe," she replied, blinking them back. "But it taught me something important. Love should not be conditional on circumstances. Real love, true connection, it should make you want to be better, to support each other through difficult times, not just enjoy the easy moments." "That is a beautiful way to look at it," Nathan said quietly. "But do you really believe that kind of love exists? In my experience, everyone has an angle, everyone wants something." Sophia considered his words, understanding the pain beneath them. "I think that kind of love exists, but it is rare. And maybe the reason it is rare is because people are so busy protecting themselves that they never let anyone truly see them. How can you find real connection if you are always wearing a mask?" The question hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning. Nathan looked at her with an expression that made her breath catch, as if he was seeing her, truly seeing her, in a way that went beyond surface impressions. "Sophia," he said, her name sounding different when he spoke it, more intimate somehow. "There is something I need to tell you." Before he could continue, his phone buzzed insistently. He glanced at the screen and grimaced. "I apologize. I need to take this." He stepped into the small hallway, and Sophia could hear the low murmur of his voice, though not the words. She stood and moved to the window, watching the rain streak down the glass, her mind spinning with questions about this mysterious man who had appeared in her life so unexpectedly. When Nathan returned, there was tension in his shoulders that had not been there before. "I am sorry. There is a situation at work that requires my attention." Sophia felt disappointment settle in her chest but tried to hide it. "Of course. I understand. Thank you for the ride and for the conversation. It has been really nice." Nathan moved closer, and Sophia found herself holding her breath. He reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers brushing her cheek with feather-light touch. "This evening has meant more to me than you know," he said quietly. "You have reminded me of something I had forgotten. That genuine connection is possible, that not everyone has ulterior motives. Will I see you again? Sophia asked, surprised by her own boldness. Tomorrow, he promised. When you come to work, look for me. I will find you. He moved toward the door, then paused and turned back. Sophia, when we see each other tomorrow, things might be different. The context will change. But I want you to remember this evening, remember how we connected without pretenses or expectations. Can you do that? Sophia frowned, confused by his cryptic words. I do not understand. He smiled, a mixture of warmth and something that looked like regret. You will. Good night, Sophia Bennett. Good night, she replied, realizing with a start that she still did not know his full name. Wait, you know my last name, but I do not even know yours. He was already at the door, his hand on the knob. Nathan, he said simply. My name is Nathan Cross. The name sounded vaguely familiar, triggering something in the back of her mind, but before she could place it, he was gone. Sophia closed the door and leaned against it, her heart full of questions and possibilities. She did not know it yet, but the man who had just left her apartment was about to change her life in ways she could never have imagined. All because of a simple act of kindness in the rain, and a connection that defied logic and circumstance. As she prepared for bed that night, Sophia found herself smiling, anticipating tomorrow with a mixture of excitement and nervousness that made her feel alive in a way she had not experienced in years. The rain continued to fall outside her window, a gentle lullaby that carried her into dreams of warm brown eyes and promises of tomorrow. Sophia woke the next morning with a sense of anticipation that made her move through her routine with extra care. She chose a burgundy blouse that brought out the warmth in her complexion and paired it with her best black trousers. As she applied minimal makeup, she found herself thinking about Nathan and his cryptic words from the night before. What had he meant about things being different today? The bus ride to work felt longer than usual, every stop testing her patience. She kept replaying their conversation, the way he had looked at her, the gentle touch of his fingers against her cheek. There was something between them, something real and undeniable, despite having just met. She had never believed in instant connections before, but Nathan had challenged that skepticism. When Sophia arrived at Meridian Industries, the building buzzed with unusual energy. Employees clustered in small groups, whispering with an excitement that seemed out of place for a typical Tuesday morning. She badged through security and headed toward the elevators, noticing that several people were moving toward the large conference room on the main floor instead of going to their respective departments. Sophia, wait up, called Claire, her friend from the marketing department who had helped her navigate office politics during her first weeks. Claire's eyes sparkled with excitement as she caught up. Can you believe it? The CEO is actually coming down from his office. This never happens. Sophia's stomach tightened with confusion. Why would that be such a big deal? Claire stared at her as if she had grown a second head. Because Nathan Cross practically lives in his penthouse office. Most employees have worked here for years without ever seeing him in person. He built this company from nothing into a billion-dollar empire, but he is notoriously private. There are more pictures of Bigfoot than there are of him at company events. The name hit Sophia like a physical blow. Nathan Cross. The CEO of Meridian Industries. The man whose company she worked for. The man who had driven her home last night, sat in her tiny apartment, shared coffee and conversation as if he were just an ordinary person. Her mind raced back through every moment of the previous evening, recontextualizing everything through this new lens. The expensive car, the refined manner, the way he had deflected personal questions, his comment about people wanting something from him. Of course. He had not been a company driver at all. He had been the person who owned the entire company. Sophia, are you okay? You look pale, Claire said, touching her arm with concern. I am fine, Sophia managed, though her voice sounded distant to her own ears. Just surprised, I guess. They filed into the conference room with dozens of other employees. Sophia found herself moving mechanically, her thoughts a chaotic swirl of confusion, embarrassment, and something that felt dangerously close to betrayal. He had let her believe he was a driver. She had opened up to him, shared her struggles, invited him into her home, and the entire time he had been lying about who he was. The room gradually filled, and Sophia positioned herself near the back, suddenly desperate to be invisible. Her heart pounded so hard she was certain everyone around her could hear it. The lights dimmed slightly, and a hush fell over the assembled employees. The side door opened, and several executives filed in, taking seats at the front of the room. Then, through the same door, walked a man in an impeccably tailored navy suit. His dark hair was styled with professional precision, and he carried himself with an authority that seemed to command the space around him. It was Nathan. But this Nathan looked different from the man who had sat on her worn couch the night before. This version was polished, powerful, and utterly at ease with the 100 pairs of eyes fixed on him. He moved to the podium with confident strides, his presence filling the room in a way that made Sophia's breath catch painfully in her chest. "Good morning," he began, his voice carrying easily through the space. "I know my presence here is unusual, and I appreciate you taking time from your schedules. I wanted to personally announce a new initiative that reflects the core values this company was built upon." Sophia barely heard the words. She was too focused on the way he scanned the room, his eyes moving methodically across the sea of faces. When his gaze reached the back where she stood, it stopped. Their eyes met, and Sophia saw recognition flash across his features, followed by something that looked like regret. She could not stay. The walls felt like they were closing in, the air too thin to breathe properly. While Nathan continued his announcement about some new mentorship program, Sophia quietly slipped out of the conference room and headed directly to the women's restroom. Inside the cool, tiled space, she gripped the edge of the sink and stared at her reflection. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes bright with unshed tears that she refused to let fall. She had been such a fool. Inviting the CEO of the company into her apartment, babbling about her family's financial struggles, serving him coffee in a chipped mug while sitting on second-hand furniture. The door opened, and Claire entered, concern etched across her features. "Sophia, what happened? You ran out of there like the building was on fire." "I made a mistake," Sophia said quietly, straightening her shoulders and forcing herself to meet Claire's eyes. "A stupid, embarrassing mistake." Before Claire could respond, the door opened again, and this time it was Nathan who entered, completely disregarding the fact that this was the women's restroom. Claire's eyes widened in shock. "Mr. Cross, this is the ladies' room," Claire stammered. "I am aware," Nathan said, his attention focused entirely on Sophia. "Could you give us a moment, please?" Claire looked between them, clearly torn between protocol and curiosity, but eventually nodded and left. The door closed behind her, leaving Sophia alone with the man who had deceived her. "You lied to me," Sophia said, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. "I did not lie," Nathan replied carefully. "I simply did not correct your assumption." "That is the same thing," Sophia shot back. "You knew I thought you were a driver. You let me invite you into my home, share my life story, open up about my struggles. And the entire time, you were the CEO of this company. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is?" Nathan took a step closer, and Sophia held her ground. "It was never about humiliation. When you got into my car yesterday, you treated me like a person, not a position. You talked to me, really talked to me, without any agenda or ulterior motive. Do you know how rare that is? So you used me as some kind of social experiment?" Sophia demanded, anger replacing her embarrassment. Poor girl from the bad neighborhood makes for an interesting diversion for the board CEO? Pain flashed across Nathan's face. "That is not fair, and you know it. Everything we shared last night was real. The conversation, the connection, the way I felt sitting in your apartment. That was the most genuine interaction I have had in years. But it was built on a lie, Sophia insisted, though her voice wavered slightly. How can anything real come from deception? Nathan ran a hand through his hair, disrupting its perfect styling. You told me last night that real connection requires taking off the mask, letting someone see who you truly are. That is exactly what I was trying to do. When I am Nathan Cross, CEO, people see dollar signs and opportunities. They see what I can do for them, not who I actually am. But with you, for those few hours, I was just Nathan. A man having coffee with a fascinating woman who challenged my cynicism and reminded me why connection matters. Sophia wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the sense of betrayal that burned in her chest. But his words resonated with something deep inside her, echoing the very conversation they had had the night before about masks and authenticity. You should have told me, she said, her voice softer now. You should have trusted me with the truth. You are right, Nathan admitted. I was going to tell you. Right before my phone rang, I was about to explain everything. But then I got called away, and I told myself I would tell you today. I never imagined you would find out like this. They stood in silence, the only sound the drip of a leaky faucet in one of the stalls. Sophia studied his face, seeing the vulnerability there, the genuine regret. This was not the powerful CEO who had commanded the conference room. This was the man who had listened to her dreams and fears without judgment, who had made her feel seen and valued. What happens now? Sophia asked quietly. Nathan took another step closer, close enough that she could smell the subtle scent of his cologne. That depends on you. I understand if you cannot forgive me for not being completely honest. But I need you to know that everything I felt last night was real. The way you made me laugh, the way you challenged my assumptions, the way being near you made me feel like maybe I had been wrong about people. All of that was genuine. This cannot work, Sophia said, though her voice lacked conviction. You are the CEO. I am an entry-level analyst. People will think I am using you for advancement, or that you are taking advantage of your position. Let them think what they want, Nathan said firmly. I have spent years caring too much about what people think, protecting myself behind walls of professional distance. You told me last night that real love should not be conditional on circumstances. I want to find out if what we started last night could become something real, something worth fighting for. Sophia felt tears finally escape, trailing down her cheeks. You are asking me to take a huge risk. To trust you despite the deception, to potentially put my career and reputation on the line. Nathan reached up and gently wiped away her tears with his thumb, the gesture achingly familiar from the night before. I know. And I am asking because for the first time in longer than I can remember, I met someone who made me want to be brave enough to try. Someone who saw value in me beyond my bank account or my business success. Someone who offered me coffee in a chipped mug and made me feel more at home than I have felt in years. Sophia closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his hand against her face, remembering the ease of their conversation, the way her heart had lightened in his presence. She thought about her mother's advice about home reflecting the heart of the person who lives there. What did it say about Nathan that he had appreciated her small apartment, had found beauty in her simple life? If we do this, she said, opening her eyes to meet his, no more secrets. No more deception. Complete honesty, even when it is difficult. Relief flooded Nathan's features, transforming them with a smile that was pure joy. I promise. Complete transparency from this moment forward. And we take it slow, Sophia added. I need time to process this, to understand what it means to be with someone in your position. As slow as you need, Nathan agreed. Though I should warn you that I am not very good at being patient when I have found something I truly want. Despite everything, Sophia felt a smile tugging at her lips. You are impossible. That is what my business partner tells me, Nathan said, his eyes sparkling with humor. But you make me want to be better. Less impossible, more real. The bathroom door opened, and an employee walked in, stopping dead when she saw the CEO standing there. "Oh my goodness, I am so sorry, I did not realize." Nathan smiled easily. "My fault entirely. I will leave you ladies to your space." He looked back at Sophia, his expression tender. "Have dinner with me tonight? A proper date where I promise to be completely honest about everything?" Sophia nodded, her heart full of hope and trepidation in equal measure. "Okay. But I am choosing the restaurant, and it will not be anywhere fancy. If we are doing this, we are doing it my way." "I would not have it any other way," Nathan said. He squeezed her hand gently before leaving, and Sophia stood there feeling as if her entire world had shifted on its axis. Claire burst in moments later. "What just happened? Did the CEO just ask you on a date in the women's bathroom?" Sophia laughed, a genuine sound that surprised her given the emotional whiplash of the morning. "It is a long story. One that involves rain, coffee, and possibly the strangest beginning to a relationship anyone has ever had." As she returned to her desk, Sophia felt the eyes of curious co-workers following her, but for once, she did not care what people thought. Nathan had been right about one thing. Sometimes you had to be brave enough to take off the mask, to risk being seen and potentially hurt, in order to find something real. That evening, as she waited for Nathan at a small neighborhood restaurant she had chosen, Sophia reflected on how one decision in the rain had changed everything. She had opened her door to a stranger, and in doing so, had opened her heart to possibilities she had long stopped believing in. When Nathan arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a simple sweater, looking more like the man from her apartment than the CEO from the conference room, Sophia knew that whatever came next would be complicated and challenging and probably messy. But as he smiled at her across the table, as they began the conversation that would be the first of many honest exchanges, she also knew it would be worth it. Because sometimes love arrives in the most unexpected ways, disguised as a simple kindness in the rain, and transforms into something that challenges everything you thought you knew about trust, connection, and taking chances on people who make you believe in possibilities again. The end.